way to honor President Kennedy. And the March on Washington, in many ways, was a public display purposely geared towards trying to galvanize public support for the Civil Rights Bill. And finally, when the bill went to Congress, it was passed in the House, but it was filibustered for more than 70 days in the Senate until finally the bill was passed and President Johnson signed it. But I think
NPR Radio, FM 91.7, citation.
It took a great deal of coalition building, a great deal of public persuasion, moral persuasion, and a great deal of jockeying in Congress.
Talking about the 1965 Civil Rights Act that was passed, which entitled everyone, no matter what the color of your skin was, to be treated equally.
Iconic photos of how many people it drew to the National Mall in Washington who were mobilized by the cause of civil rights. What role do you think it played in creating a political environment where this bill that had been stymied could actually become law?
It created a great deal of public awareness, and not just in this country, but globally, to show that there was a great deal of support for this bill, and also to show that it was a bill that was backed by a broad coalition of the American public. It wasn't just people of color, African Americans, but it was also white brothers and sisters as well. It was Protestant, Catholic, Jew, Muslim, and it was a way to show America, but also the globe, about the support that the bill had, and really began to shift public opinion around passage of the bill.
I wonder if you can help us put this in some political context. What impacted the passage of the Civil Rights Act of President Johnson signing it into law?
So many
political dynamics in this country.
They just started doing a blind eye.
Johnson had often said privately, and some of his aides, Bill Moores as well, had said that the passage of the Civil Rights Bill and the passage of the Voting Rights Act the following year was really for the Democrats signing away the South. And in many ways, they were correct about that. We see that immediately following the passage of the Civil Rights Bill in 1964, that George Wallace received a great deal of support in the Democratic primary later that year. And also we see that Barry Goldwater was elected the nominee for the Republican Party. Both of those political figures opposed the Civil Rights Bill, and both of those figures maintained that it was against the law for the government to tell businesses or public accommodations who they had to serve.
So look at the Republicans always been opposing. Now they're opposing everybody, not just African Americans, in the things that they do. Because you the new slave.
So much so that Kevin Phillips, who was a well-known political appointee and political advisor for Richard Nixon, argued that the key to politics moving forward, he said, was figuring out who hated who. And I think that we see that in the rise of what was known as the white backlash in this country, and also the Republicans beginning to be the primary party at the national level throughout the South.
When you think about the fact that we are now 60 years removed from the signing of this law, how do you think about its legacy?
Well, the legacy, I think, is that it should remind all of us about the importance of building a coalition of the willing, a coalition of folks that across race lines and class lines who believe that America should be the land of the free, where all human beings, regardless of their race, sex, creed, gender, or sexuality, or religion, or origin, should be treated equally. And I think
that's right. Human rights. Ain't no such thing as races. It's only one race, and that's the human race.
Non-violently in the streets and pressing and moving their elected officials to vote according to the will of the people. And I think that's an important legacy for us to remember, because it's very, very possible for this legislation to be clipped and rolled back and anesthetized and made anemic to the point where it no longer has any teeth. So we have to always be vigilant and remind ourselves that what it takes for such landmark legislation to be passed.
We've been speaking with Lerone Martin. He directs the Martin Luther King Jr. Research and Education Institute at Stanford University. Lerone, thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Citation. NPR Radio, FM 91.7. That's right. Celebrating Civil Rights Act of 1964. And we still have not achieved our basic rights. 60 years later. Still looked at by some people as less than. Still treated as, it's crazy. It really is. When people have shown you time and time